everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Darcy.
Hi, Jemima.
Hi,
Welcome
guys.
back, Jemima.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Awakened Positive Power, guys. Once again, you're with Darcy, Matt, and myself, I should say, Jemima Godzel. We're here to talk to you regarding depression, mental health awareness, and suicide prevention. Guys, our idea here is to try to normalize the conversation around these topics, which are heavy topics. We think like society has shunned us or made us feel strange, or it's difficult for people to talk about their emotions. Oh my gosh, why? All I have to say, I'm an emotional person, and if I probably wouldn't have gotten into a lot of trouble if I was able to talk a lot more, if it was more acceptable to talk to people regarding my troubles in the moment. So Darcy and I are here to talk from a friendship perspective, but Darcy's also a professional hypnotherapist and healer. And myself, I've had experience with suicide prevention. Or myself, I attempted suicide, so I'm a survivor. And so I understand that sort of the other side, the flip side of healing. So yeah, welcome. Oh my God, here we are. Hello.
So please notice our disclaimer below. We have a
Yes,
disclaimer.
down below.
Yes.
Yeah. And don't forget to, before we go into our conversation, don't forget to, if you can, like, share, and subscribe. The more we get, especially the subscribe, guys, because that actually gets our, what is it called, algorithms or something. I'm so not tech savvy. But anyway, it gets them out there, gets it up, and people will get more. It will get out to more people. So we're just trying to hopefully, I don't know, spread the word sort of thing, and say there's a safe place for you guys to talk or feel that, you know, a connection between other people out there who have suffered and also ideas of how to heal. So
that's really the big thing. Ideas about how to heal. So if you're out there suffering, if you're out there feeling alone, if you're out there feeling like no one understands what you are going through, if you're out there feeling that it's all for nothing, we want to tell you that we are here. We understand. We know that your story is unique, and yet we can understand and give you the compassion and love that you need. And we have asked other people to join our conversation who have also experienced these feelings, or perhaps they've lost a loved one. And it's important to hear how your loved ones feel when you decide to take this action. You know, I've lost loved ones also through this, and I'm really happy to say that Jemima did not finish her action. So she's still with me, which is a really great thing. And so we just want to put this out there, that there's no shame, that we all have big feelings. We all have times where we cannot fit into society's idea of who we should be, what we should be, or where we should be. And that's okay.
And guys, too, also, like, I'm just like everybody else. I would say I'm not special, but I like to say we're all special. Like, I'm special just as you are. And if I can do it, everyone can. So I'm trying to just say, look, as in I'm no one special. Yes, I am just as special, but I'm just like all of us. So there's no reason why any of us can't get through depression, mental health illness, and thoughts of suicide. So
We can if we have support. And I think that's the biggest lesson to learn, is that to learn that you are special, but then to also learn that you are no more special than the person sitting next to you is also special. But to really understand both those levels of awareness is what's really important. But you have somebody you've invited today, Jemima.
I sure do. Yes, we have a beautiful couple here, Matt and Laura Stoker from Awake Healer. They are here today to talk to us regarding suicide prevention. They've both been through difficult situations with people who have passed from suicide. And I really would like them to inspire us with how they've survived after the trauma of their loved ones committing suicide, which is a very heavy topic, guys. We know it's a really tough topic, and we honor. Hello, Matt and Laura. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, do you feel their energy? I mean, I swear, I've got goosebumps. That we wanted to bring them on just to, once again, normalize the conversation, as much as that's a tough word to use in this sort of type of conversation, but just to hear other people who have been through it and how they've gotten to where they are. As I said, you can see that energy from them is a beautiful energy, as such as Darcy. But you know, how does one get through this? How does one get through this? So let's hand it over. Matt and Laura, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's such an honor.
Thank
Well, the honor is ours, and there's no coincidences in life, and so it was beautiful connecting, and when we learned about what you were doing, it was just fortuitous that you asked us to be on. So thank you for raising awareness and inviting us on.
It's our
Yes.
pleasure too. Thank you, thank you.
Hey,
So
can you-
Laura, sorry, Darcy.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Go ahead, go.
You go. Okay.
I was gonna ask if we could hear a little bit about your healing practice that you do, and yeah.
Definitely. So it's interesting because a lot of times when you go through something hard, whether it's losing someone to suicide or whatever it is in your life, and you think, how do I get through it? And how do I come on the other side of it? And what it really is it's kind of just adjusting to this new normal. It's adjusting to a new reality. And I would describe it much like when you go through something so traumatic, it's almost like you go into you're on a different planet now. Your world is forever different, and you're on a different planet. And it's a matter of finding those things, discovering those things so that you can find joy and happiness again. Because the grief process is, a lot of times people think it's like this, where you're like, I just keep getting better and better every day. And it's not even like this, where it's like I have bad days and good days, but overall I'm going up. It's more circular. So you don't, I still go through phases of, oh, I'm mad at my first husband for doing that and leaving me with 6 kids and 22 years of marriage. Like, how could he have done that to me? And then sometimes I feel intense sadness. And then other times I reminisce and I feel like I'm so glad I'm on the other side of it, you could say. But it's a matter of adjusting to this new normal. And I've done some very specific things to help me. And I'm so grateful plant medicine found me truly to be able to have these tools. And I don't know if I should go ahead and start sharing my story because.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, share your story, please. Okay. Yes.
So,
and you know what? It's these stories that really help people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
hearing that story.
I'm happy to help. And I think about that. If I were going through what I went through, to talk to someone like me that's kind of gone through that, it's been 5 years since he passed away. I would be like, tell me, how did you do it? Because you're smiling again and you are living your life again somehow. That's just enough hope, I think, for people. Just the fact that you can get up and walk upright and eat a meal all the way through and smile and laugh again. Just that in and of itself, let alone be productive and accomplish your goals. Just getting through to that point gives people hope. And so you could say it's, so I was raised in a very conservative home. I'm best friends with all my siblings. I have 7 siblings.
Wow.
And my parents are wonderful people. I was raised Mormon and in Utah most of my life, most of my teenage life. And I had a lot of, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but basically there was a certain set of beliefs that we were kind of funneled through with good intentions, but funneled through like, okay, you do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, and then you're going to get X, Y, Z or whatever. You do these things and you'll be blessed, that kind of thing, which is great. It's a good structure. But what it did is, for me, it set me up for getting into a relationship and not doing it with my eyes wide open. Right. So in other words, like, well, we messed up intimately before we even thought about getting married. So therefore we must get married now because we did it, which is it's so naive to have your eyes shut before entering into a marriage. But that's what my paradigm was. And so I got married to my first husband after we got engaged after 2 months. We got married 2 months later. It was very quick. And that sometimes works out, but I just didn't have my eyes open. And looking back, I had ignored my intuition. I ignored my gut feeling of, ooh, something's not quite right. And that's the main thing. That's my compass truly, is my gut feeling, my intuition today. It wasn't then. And we were married for 22 years. We had 6 kids, and all throughout our marriage, there were red flags. There were red flags before we got married, but I ignored it. And I thought about divorce.
I have a question. Did you ignore it thinking there was probably something wrong with you? Or did you just ignore it?
Kind of both.
Kind of both.
I thought I'm not quite righteous enough. I'm not quite the first little bit. Then after that, it was like, something's wrong with you. And I became kind of this angry person inside and pointing fingers and not realizing what my role was as the enabler. That's what big thing. I actually wrote a book. It's on Amazon. It's called Joy is My Answer. And I would show you a copy, but anytime I have a copy, I give it away so fast. They're struggling. And but it's on Amazon and it's available Kindle free too as well. So people that have Kindle Prime.
Say the name again.
Joy is My Answer.
And it's Laura Stoker.
Yeah. And that's on Amazon. So anyway, so I ignored my intuition a lot in my marriage, and I became this inwardly, I'll sacrifice my own happiness for the sake of the family. So I'm the noble kind of savior to my family, basically. And it took me going into a betrayal trauma group with women to realize, oh my goodness, what's the role that I play? And so all of a sudden I was faced with, I'm the enabler. What do I want with my life? I've contributed to this dynamic. And so I began to listen to my intuition and stand up and hold boundaries finally after a lot of years. I mean, I did hold boundaries off and on, but then I'd cave and I'd go back and, oh, we got to keep my family together. We've got kids together. And, there were good times, but the underlying issue was he had episodes of depression and suicide ideology. The first year we were married, he talked about, if I'm thinking about driving my truck off a cliff, he'd tell me this, and he'd say, if just so you know, if they find my body, just know it's not me, and I'm in another place now. And he'd say things like that. And I'm sitting there with a newborn, breastfeeding a newborn, going, why are you saying this? And I'd start to cry, and I can help you. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I was always trying to, so that was throughout my marriage. And but when I finally began to hold boundaries after 22 years, he did a mock, I say mock because it didn't happen all the way, and maybe it would have if he wasn't stopped, but he did a suicide attempt, and I had called the police, and it was very, very dramatic and involved my kids because he had talked to one of my kids who was young at the time saying, my life isn't worth living and blah, 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 the whole thing. And, at the time I was like, he's manipulative, he's wacko and everything else. And at that point I was holding boundaries. This is about April 2016. And so we separated at that time. I said, you know what, enough's enough. This is affecting the kids. You need to go live somewhere else. And it was in that process I began to get healthier with listening to my own intuition. August 11th or August 10th, 2016. So just a couple months later, he begged me to go to a therapy session with him. And I said, I will go if you give me full disclosure on everything you've done, because he had a lot of different issues. He had addictions and different things. I won't, I'm just kind of not sharing everything because we'd be here for 4 hours, right?
Gotcha. You're giving us an overview.
Right. My book is, I go through a lot of detail about different scenarios, and really my book is a book about healing from suicide, but also listening to your intuition and as a woman holding boundaries and claiming your divine feminine power. So, but I agreed to go to this therapy session August 10th, and it was 2.5 hours, and I held boundaries, and I stood up at this session, and I just was like, I don't want to, I'm not going to file for divorce yet, but I don't think I can do this. And I stood up to go, and I'll never forget this. The last time I saw him, he looked at me and he said, "Goodbye, Laura." And it was like this finality. And I just had this really uneasy kind of feeling. And then the next day, I just felt this feeling of like, call him, tell him it's going to be okay. Do what I've done for 22 years, like make him feel better and tell him I'm not going to leave him and all of that. And I thought, no, I got to stay strong. I got to stay strong. And it was about 5 o'clock at night. I got a phone call, and it was, I was with all my family watching Michael Phelps swim in 2016, the Olympics. And it was a policeman. And I knew, I was like, he said, "I need to talk to you in person." And I said, "I know, I'm with my family right now. Just tell me." And he said, "Yeah, he's gone. He took his life." And I would say would be the beginning of my spiritual awakening, when my whole paradigm of this religious bringing, very conservative upbringing, was just completely shattered because I had done everything right according to what I was supposed to do, and things were not working out for me. And so my husband, his name was Wade, and he took his life 8 months after my son-in-law. So my son-in-law had also taken his life December 18th, 2015. And so we were still reeling from the trauma of the suicide, and it was horrendous. The time was, there's no words to describe how difficult. I entered into a state of, I can't do this. I've never been suicidal myself, but I was like, I can't walk this road. I can't, it's too much. It's too much. And so I just was like, I didn't want to eat or drink for days. And finally I came to a point where I was like, okay, well, it was my friend that came to me and she said, you know, do you want light? Do you choose light? And I said, yes, I believe in God. I choose light. And she's like, then you need to eat. You need to stay here for your kids and stay here for you. And I decided at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to live every single day fully. I'm going to live. I'm not just going to survive. It bothered me, the word survive.
Yeah.
It bothered me. I was like, that to me feels like you're not really living fully, because the fact is life is so short. Even if we live until we're 95, like it's so short. Every single day is so precious. And so that really began my journey of healing. And there's a lot that happened. And again, it's like a circle, you know, it's not like, wow, I've arrived. I remember people would come up to me and they were so worried about me. And if I wasn't crying in that moment, little did they know I had been crying for 3 hours before, curled up in a ball and fetal position in my closet, crying and sobbing and screaming and sobbing. And then 2 hours later, I'd be up and cleaning the kitchen and someone would drop by some cookies or something, you know, a neighbor, and they'd say, oh, well, I'm so relieved. You look like you're doing better. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Right.
Kidding me? What?
Yes. Well, at this moment, yes.
At this moment, I'm just not crying because my head hurts because I've been crying so much. And so it was really, but every day added another day of opportunity for healing. And then I met Matt 7 months after my husband passed away. And it just, we eloped 5 months later, and that was listening to my intuition that was the right thing. Like it felt totally different than before. And it was about 6 months into our marriage that I had PTSD. The phone would ring, my heart would race. If anybody sounded the least bit panicky on the phone, I would shake physically. I would have a stomach ache. My legs would go limp. I was dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder from not just the finding out that he committed suicide, but the suicide ideology throughout all these years of marriage, because it would be, what's going to happen? Is he going to do it? What's going to, and then it'd be okay.
And then where and how is he going to do this? Yes.
Yeah. It was terrible. There was no like calm. It was always just like, what's going to happen? When is the next shoe going to drop, kind of a thing. And so that I knew I wasn't doing really good that way. And and you know, people would say, oh, I'd go to the doctor, here, take this pill, take this. And I'm like, I don't want a Band-Aid. And I'm not saying I'm against antidepressants or that, because they play a part for a time. But for me, I was like, I know I went through something horrible, and I don't think taking an antidepressant is my answer. Like, to me, I didn't want to numb out and become a zombie and not feel. And that's how those made me feel when I had taken them years in the past. And so plant medicine found me and found us. And it was one of Matt's friends. He did a post on Facebook where he talked about the plant medicine ayahuasca and what a change it made in his life. And it was like night and day difference. And so we started researching ayahuasca. And when I read that it could help with PTSD and depression, I was like, oh, wow. And that you could also possibly even communicate with those on the other side and have closure. And I thought, okay, I'm pretty adventurous. And this is probably the most adventurous thing I've ever done. But I want to like get to the core of the issue, which I knew I had been through too much, just really too much. And so we after, I don't know, 3 months or so of researching the plant medicine ayahuasca, which I was still very much in my religious programming. So it was like, okay, what are we doing? What is this? But we found ourselves in the middle of the Amazon jungle in Peru. And I mean, we're talking, it was a retreat center, but there wasn't electricity. There was tons of bugs. It was hot. It rained all throughout the day. Like, it was a very, very different culture for me, culture shock in every way, really. But the first evening in the Maloka, you know, they blow out the last candle and it's pitch dark after we've drank this ayahuasca.
The most disgusting liquid.
Yeah.
I quite like it.
I mean, I imagine that there's something worse, but you have to really have courage to swallow that. I mean, it's
yeah.
Wow.
intense.
But what was so beautiful about it, and I'm not saying again that I'm all better, because I still deal with my son. He's 8 now, and he was 3 when his dad died, or 3. And he still's dealing with, you know, anxiety when I leave, and he'll sometimes cry and say, I only had my dad for 3 years. And then I'm, you know, so again, it's this circle. It's not like, oh, wow, she's so happy. She has this magical life. Right. It's still very much part of who I am. And I can talk about it now without crying because I've talked about it so much. I talk about it. I shared my story with a lot of people. And of course I wrote it in my book, and that helps processing with everything. But what happened in that Maloka that night was really incredible. I was able to communicate with Wade. I guess you could say telepathically or whatever, but I knew he was right there. And I was able to just, with my eyes closed, I was able to just unload. I was so angry at him. I was able to unload all of these things that he had hurt me. And I saw scenes of my life with him. It was like, bam, bam, bam. And I just was like, I cried, I don't know, 5 gallons of tears during that ceremony. And then it came up. So I was able to communicate my grief, my deep grief. And then it came up to him deciding to leave this earth. And I just let him have it. I don't even know if I was yelling or not in the Maloka.
No, she wasn't. Everybody was, everyone was vomiting and making all kinds of noises. And I was really preoccupied. You know, I was really worried about Laura. And I kept looking at her and like, is she okay? Is she okay? And she was an angel, perfect lotus position. Like, I mean, I thought
at one
maybe
point,
I thought maybe she needs another cup.
No,
like I don't think.
No,
like
that was...
what's going on here, you know? But you have to understand,
Yeah.
Laura is a very special person. She is an angel. I mean, you know.
Well, he's my husband, so.
To have gone through what she's gone through and to just be so strong, and you know, it's like you know, just getting up, doing all the things that a mother does. I mean, you can imagine 6 kids, and she's an absolute warrior, you know. She's a total warrior. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, it was really incredible because so there was so much that happened. It's so hard to put into words, but basically I was able to communicate with him. I cried, sobbed, cried. And then I came up to him taking his life, and I was able to just get really angry with him and let him have it. And then he began to say to me, and I don't know how much time passed. Time is so weird anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 30 minutes or something of being angry at him, that he began to communicate with me. And he didn't say anything. Like, he just sat and listened the whole 2-hour period of me in that. The ceremony was about 6 hours, but communicating with him, I want to say, I have no idea. I have no idea the time, trying to put it into like 3D language, but
it's time distortion, you know. It's a long time that seems a short time that seems a long time. Time is so, it fluctuates. Yeah,
so I guess it doesn't really matter the time, but he began to say to me, it's time to let me go. And I began to communicate with him, but I don't want to. And he's like, you need to let me go. It's time. You got to let me go. And so we went back and forth, and he said to me, he said, Matt is your husband now, and like, lean on him and let me go. And it was so, what happened in that time, whatever time it was I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden, and this is the kind of the magical part of the healing, which I don't think I could have received in a lifetime of therapy. All of a sudden, I I became so grateful for my journey with him.
Right.
It was like I saw everything as with a purpose, and I began to say, thank you for the pain, thank you for the journey, thank you for everything, because it made me who I am right now, and I could see it. I could see it in that moment, and ever since then, and many other things happened in the ceremony, but that was such a turning point for me, that ever since then, I have not felt like the victim.
Yes.
I have not felt like, I don't even relate to that. I'm like, I'm not a victim. Like, I am blessed. I am so blessed. And there's people that go through what I've gone through, and they end up, using drugs or drinking, or just totally being in like just this victim mindset, that then they attract more of that, and they don't move on in a positive way with their life, and they don't live fully. They're like stuck. And that was life-changing for me. And what happened was, then we had after that, I was like, I cannot drink this ayahuasca again. I want to go home. And so we started preparing.
Very difficult work,
Oh yeah. We started preparing to leave the next day. I thought, I want to go home to my kids. I got what I came for. I don't want to be here. I don't want to drink that medicine anymore. Like, I mean, he says I was in lotus position. I wasn't in that ceremony. I was curled up in fetal position off and on. And sometimes I would sit up, but I was sobbing and crying, and just, it was so hard. It was like combining 1,000 therapy sessions into one night, into 6 hours. It was just,
all I saw was an angel. So maybe that was my ayahuasca.
That was your experience. Yeah.
That was my experience, but I was completely blown away by her. Yeah. Ayahuasca, it has a way of showing you, they say that it gives you what you need and not necessarily what you want. And, I saw you as an angel, and I needed an angel in my life.
That's
so
right.
it's perfect, but perfect for me.
So the angel meets the rock.
Yeah.
That's why I'm seeing you two, is the angel and the rock.
Yeah.
So it's really lovely.
Laura, you were saying you found that did about more than 1,000 therapy sessions is like an ayahuasca experience. Like, I've done about 20 different nights of ayahuasca myself, and I totally relate. My prime thing is, there's no way I could have gotten any years and years of therapy done in one night of my experience with ayahuasca, and how healing it is, and to come out of the victim mode, and to thank every second of your trauma to get you to who you are and where you are today, and what a miracle it is, and how profound it is an experience, and being able to also sort of cross over into the 5-dimensional world, or whatever world you want to call it, and have peace with these other people who have brought that chaos or trauma into your life. But question, as we all know, the wonderful word integration. After this experience, how did you find the integrating of this experience into your life? How did you work the integration of this experience into your life?
Oh, that's
is where the work begins. It's not a party. It's a difficult experience. People, this is not a celebration. We don't go out dancing and all that stuff. It is hard work to go into an ayahuasca ceremony. FYI, please take note of that. And it is it takes balls, I have to say. But the afterwards, once you get your experience, the integrating is even harder, or more. It takes a lot more commitment, self-commitment, to put it into the 3-dimensional world. Because you get transported outside this world. And how did you do it within this world, Laura?
So that's a really great question. I will say that, and that's why I bring up that one part of the ceremony, that I had this like light bulb, or whatever you call it, go, oh my gosh, I am grateful. I'm grateful for my journey. Wow. Like, it changed me in that moment. It really did. But I think so that in that moment, but there were a lot of other things that happened. There was a processing and still processing from his death. I mean, still it's very complicated. And so when we left, we did 5 ceremonies that time. And when we left Peru, we kicked off the jungle and onto the Amazon River in that little boat. And I said, we are never coming back.
Again.
We're never coming back.
It was just Laura and I shared with you guys before this, but Laura and I connected so quickly, and we connected so hard because we both had experienced similar things. And myself in a previous marriage, And so we just understood each other. And so there was a lot of work that needed to be done in those ayahuasca ceremonies. And I had the most beautiful healing experience of my entire life as well. But it's like you said, Jemima, you know, the integration piece.
Yeah.
I don't think the integration ever fully like stops. And I think that's just because you gather so much information. And in fact, there was at one point where I was receiving all these truths, and you know that they're truths, these things that come to you, because they were so unbelievably profound and so dead on that you feel like your mind's going to explode, because it's like, how the hell did I not see this thing right here in front of my face my whole life? And so it's really, I heard once, or I read, maybe it was a meme, right, that somebody said that an awakening is rather, or an ascension is rather a stripping away of all the falsehoods and all the programming and these belief patterns that are just total BS in our lives. And when you really think about it, when you are able to step back and see yourself from a different perspective, which is what ayahuasca allows you to do, you realize, oh my gosh, I have built my house, my life on sand, right? Or on all of these false things, right? Like, and I love you guys. I love listening to you guys that you're saying, we're just real. Like, we just, you know, sometimes we don't even wear makeup. We just do our thing. and right, we build all these expectations and all of these things. And where do these come from, right? And so life in the integration is processing all of these things. Why do we do what we do? I just yesterday, it's so funny. Speaking of integration, just yesterday, I noticed the kids once again put the toilet paper roll backwards.
Backwards to him.
And it's a trigger, right? It's a trigger. Yeah. And then, but because of the ayahuasca, these profound things, you start seeing your behavior, and you start saying, now, why does that trigger me so bad?
Right. Yeah.
Why do I?
It's really, like a mirror.
Why do I really care so much?
Yeah.
And so it's really it's just an incredible, miraculous way of seeing yourself, your life, your behavior, and other people in a different way.
Well, and so integrating for me was it was probably about a 2-year process from that experience. And one of the best things that I did, looking back, at the time I was like, because I knew I was going to write a book. I knew I was going to share my story. When my son-in-law passed away, I had the strong feeling that I would share my story of finding peace and joy after someone commits suicide that you love. But I was like, now's not the right time. That's the download that I got. And then when my husband passed away, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm really in the refiner's fire of fires. And now I'm going to figure this out. And so in my mind, I knew, and I had a notebook, and I would write down, I still have the notebook. I would write down all the miraculous things that would happen. Like, I began seeing orbs all over the place. I would see orbs every single day. Sometimes one time I was laying in my room and I was praying and meditating and crying. I was by myself late at night. And this is maybe 4 months after he passed away, I want to say. And all of a sudden in my room, there were sparkles all over, sparkles. And then I saw right next to me a blue, iridescent, purplish thing. It was like a whoosh right next to me. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I didn't know, but I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I have angels around me. And I could feel it was tangible. And so there were these miraculous things that happened that I didn't want to forget, because I knew I would include it in my book. And so I'd had, and it was a couple of years later. I mean, I kept thinking, okay, got to write my book. And I went to this lady, and I don't want to go off on a lot of tangents, but I went to this lady that was for fun. We were on a vacation and she's doing this tarot card reading. And I thought, oh, it's $5. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I did it. And she said some things that I went, oh my gosh, you said what I needed to hear, because I'm supposed to write a book. And she's like, then she said exactly what I needed to hear. She said, just start it. you got to start your book. And it was that point that I was like, okay, I'm doing it. And so I already knew I was going to write, but when coming back from ayahuasca that first time, it was that next year that I began my book, and I wrote about ayahuasca, and I wrote about healing, and I wrote about all these things. And so that helped a lot. So I think people journaling is super important. Yeah. But it just, for me, it took time to integrate everything, and getting brave enough to tell people too that I drank ayahuasca in the middle of the jungle. And
so people make a judgment against. I think it's going tripping and they have no idea that
exactly
it's going into a hard work. It is
exactly.
It's
so
in life.
Yeah. And so what happened was it was about 2 years later that ayahuasca began to call again. And this time Matt and I went with my daughter Caitlin, who was struggling with PTSD. And so
it is funny that we would actually go back.
We went back. And we had 5 ceremonies, and every single ceremony, it was like, share plant medicine with the world, share plant medicine. And I thought, okay, I'm in essential oils. I'm a leader in doTERRA. And that's how I make a wonderful living sharing oils. And I thought, yes, I share oils. And then it was Mother Ayahuasca said, no, you need to share the medicines of the jungle and bring hope and healing to people. And I saw a lot of scenes with darkness, and I knew I needed to somehow bring these medicines to people. And so that began our journey of starting really in January 2020, February-ish, around there, developing Awake Healer. And so it's what we do. It's our labor of love. And our website's awakehealer.com. And we have an affiliate program, and we're able to bring in the pure vine of ayahuasca, which is legal. It does not have the chacruna root in it. And so we have it available. I have it right here. I'll show you. We have it available for microdosing, and it contains the spirit, the essence of the Mother Ayahuasca. And
I excuse me, I just want to say, like, a lot of the reason for, and the Awake Healer, the development has really been pretty miraculous. Just the connections and synchronistic opportunities. But a lot of it, we have courses as well. And because, like, for us, we were really kind of going through life, really, looking viewing things through a pinhole, really, because and a lot of people, they're raised in a certain dogma, a certain culture, and anything outside of what they're being told to see is really taboo. It's off limits. And then if you're to have an experience and I don't care who you are, how you were raised, you have an experience like this with ayahuasca or psilocybin mushrooms or something like that, whatever it is that allows you to kind of snap out of that paradigm, you start to have a lot of questions, and it's really hard to understand a lot of these things. And so we have courses to help people, and we have professionals like yourself, to coach people through. And then we've learned of these medicines that we didn't know about before, and we've just connected with tribal leaders and people that like, I don't know if Laura mentioned this or not, but our Pure Vine, to my knowledge, it's the only ayahuasca bottled in an FDA approved facility. And that was extremely difficult.
Wow, good
to
for you.
get that done. But it's pretty miraculous. And I knew nothing about microdosing the Pure Vine of ayahuasca until I was doing an interview. And I have hundreds of interviews with people with miraculous stories of healing, and a lot of stories of healing people that had dates that they were going to kill themselves, and miraculous stories of healing. And this person mentioned that they healed themselves through microdosing ayahuasca, and I'd never heard of it. And he said, do you want me to send you a bottle? And he sent me a bottle, and that night I received messages, literally words coming across in front of me that I had never seen before. But I'm like, is that a real word? And I look it up, and it's like messages for me, and then we contacted somebody that got us in touch with, they actually represent many different tribes to the United Nations. And so we have many different types of hape. This is another medicine that they use, and it's actually, we have these different, this is a self-applicator. But I've just found that these are tools, you know. So when people are feeling tremendous anxiety, heart palpitations, they're feeling like there's nothing that I can take to solve this, and they run for a bottle of alcohol or some other kind of destructive behavior. At least for me and for Laura and I, some of these tools, some of these plants, are so miraculous in what they do and their effects. It's just incredible. And we also, we procure cacao. This is another thing. I had no idea that, you know, the food of the gods, as how the Mayans would call it, it's also one of the greatest beneficial, most nutrient dense foods you can ingest. But we've got, this is called chocaya, and this is the Criollo Arriba Nacional. It comes from the Quichua tribe in Ecuador. It's the finest cacao in the world.
Wonderful.
And we've connected with these beautiful people. And this is mixed with the pure vine of ayahuasca. We have these ceremonies with, all you're doing is drinking cacao. But the first time I drank it, I had tears flying down my face. I said, what's going on here? What is this stuff? And it's just, we want access for everybody to learn of these. There's other tools, there's other healing modalities, things that they can do. And a lot of these are hidden and they're taboo, and they need to be brought to light. They need to be destigmatized. And, you know, I think,
I think that's really so important, you know, and what you're really doing here is you're bringing the sacred back into the world, you know, without bringing in some dogma or some pre-imposed standard of living. And if we just start to acknowledge the sacred in everything we do in life and how we approach life, it's something like the cacao can become just so important and healing in our bodies and our minds. And that's so profound.
And our objective, of course, we're bringing these plant medicines different, and we're adding things all the time with different medicines and jewelry and, you know, made by the tribal people and everything. And we're working directly with the tribal people and not middlemen. And we're helping grow their communities by providing jobs for them. And so our goal, our bigger picture goal, is to bring, like I had in that ayahuasca ceremony, was to bring these plant medicines to the world. And so our goal is, I mean, we look like regular people, and we're regular people. And so we want to bring them mainstream so that people know what hape is, and they know cacao, and they know sound healing, sound baths, and they understand the benefits of microdosing ayahuasca. And we're bringing this mainstream to everyday people so that people like myself or my kids that are dealing with trauma and loss can find respite and healing in these plant allies. And like last night, my daughter, who's 26, and she lost her husband 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago, just before her dad. And she now facilitates, because she's attended our trainings with the Wake Healer, she now facilitates cacao ceremonies, and she does sound healing, and she administered hape last night to people. She had 15 people in her healing room, she calls it, in her home, and she facilitated a beautiful cacao ceremony with the Wake Healer cacao, and she administered hape before to everybody. And people were crying, and you don't know what they're going through. But the one lady sitting next to me talked about how she realized in the ceremony that what she went through was not her fault. And she was crying, and she's like, you know, and she didn't share, obviously we do a sharing circle for like a minute, but you just, that's our bigger goal, is to bring hope and healing to everybody and to destigmatize, you know, to break down the walls so people understand these plant allies are for us, for everybody, no matter where you live or where you come from, or if your skin is white or if it's brown or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's for all of us. And we hold the medicines with reverence, and we have sourcing that we do, we call sacred sourcing, that is we won't do anything unless it is ethical and provides opportunity for people. Integrity, yeah.
I mean, the mission is not to become rich off of plant medicines. I mean, in fact, I told Laura, if we're not giving this away, I don't feel comfortable even doing this, just because ayahuasca is not the people refer to her as the mother, you know, and grandmother, and she can be stern like like a grandmother, right? Smacking her hand.
Oh, yes,
And I'm
yes.
just like, I don't want to be messing with this, but
Right.
it's interesting. We actually tested, you know, it got very difficult, you know, trying to get the FDA, you know, get the approval to have it bottled in an FDA approved facility, and the hoops, and it just seemed insurmountable. And the issues with bringing it in, we lost thousands of dollars in product, and it just seemed like this is insurmountable. And I just said, you know what, good. You know what, I don't want to do this anyway, you know. And then all the roadblocks were cleared, and
As it was meant to come through. Yes. Yeah.
Guys,
Beautiful.
I'm sorry to be devil's advocate, but I have to sort of slowly wrap this up. But I want to just say I am so inspired by you guys. I know I always say help save my life, and I'm so glad that you too have found that as well. What you're doing right now is just profound, and it's absolutely, I adore you. I adore you guys. And I think, yes, bring it to these people, bring it to the world, bring it to everyone. We need this. It's Mother Nature. It comes from the land. She's here to help us. And we've messed it, and now we have to bring it back. And the magic and the genius of it and the hard work that goes along with it. So guys, could you just mention your website again, just so we can get that down and so people can be in contact with you if they so desire, and we can get this spreading out there? Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's awakehealer.com.
And what an appropriate name, hey?
Right? And that was a download too. I was like, is this, and it was available, awakehealer.com.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mine
right
was
there,
Awakened Positive Power, and it was available. I was like, what? And it was just download for me too. And I was like, yay!
I love it. There's such a great awakening that's happening with people right now. It's just so great to connect. We're forming our tribe. That's what we're doing around the world.
And people like us who have gone through the traumas, all of us here right now and beyond, through our traumas, we're able to now help, and our healing, we're able to help the people who feel so lost and so scared, and inspire them and hold their hand and just say it's okay, and introduce them to plant medicine and other tools to help and step out of this. Not to say, once again, like you said, not to say anything's wrong with Western medicine, but to step outside and know there are other tools. There are different tools. And if that doesn't work for you, try this. Try sound bars, exactly as you said. Try so many different things out there that are natural, come from Mother Earth. That I
think that's really important to just to note, because this is not an alternative to medicine. This is an addition to our life, where we acknowledge who we are in terms of our spirit in our body, and how to change our lives by integrating different aspects of healing. You know, go to the doctor for your flu, but that's not going to heal you from your trauma. Right. And, you know, how we change our lives of, I'm walking to church, I'm walking to school, I'm running to work, I'm running here, I'm running there, and we lose our connection with our spirit and the sacred. And so many of us are not in touch with how much we are hurting and suffering and how much trauma we carry with us. And so by having these alternatives, what we're really seeing is these things have always been available to us, but we hadn't had the awareness that these things are appropriate, they're good, they're healthy, and all of us can benefit. And if you don't want the ayahuasca, there are 100 different ways you can benefit from what these two people are doing. And I just find that to be so loving and so beautiful and so important. You know?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming
Beautiful.
today.
So much.
Now, Darcy, on that note of alternate healings or other healings, could you do us another healing method that, guys, as you know, Darcy, who's been here before, does amazing meditation. So would you mind closing this circle with us? And Matt and Laura, bless you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. We hope to have you again, like another time, and we can chat some more. You're really great because you've inspired us, and the work you're doing is just respect to you guys. And thank you so much for coming today. And we love you. We love
Thank
you.
you.
Love
We feel
you.
the same. Thank
And
you.
Darcy, would you like to do this closing meditation for
I
us?
would love to do
Yay,
this real
thank you.
closing
One of my favorite
meditation.
parts today.
We're just going to do a real brief thing. Thank you, Laura. Right. Thank you, Matt, for sharing your stories.
Thank
I think the stories are so important. These stories are so important. You made a big impact on me today. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. If you can, put your feet flat on the floor. See if you can straighten your spine for just a moment. If you're sitting on a chair, get yourself straight. If you're sitting on the floor, try to get your spine straight. And just close your eyes and put all your attention on the tip of your nose. And allow yourself to breathe in through your nose. And hold for a beat. And exhale through your mouth, long and slow, letting it all go. And now just breathe easy. And again, breathe in fully in through your nose. A big deep breath in. And hold for a beat. And exhale through your mouth. Long and slow. Letting it go. And just breathing easy. Just being in this moment. Together here in this moment. And allowing the sounds to come and go. Sounds outside the room. Sounds inside your body. Allowing the sounds to come and go. The way the breath comes and goes. Allowing the thoughts to come and go. The way the sounds come and go. The way the breath comes and goes. And if there's any discomfort in your body, a tickle, an itch, a pain, just allow it to come and go. The way the sounds come and go. The way the thoughts come and go. The way the breath comes and goes. And if any feelings, emotions come up in your body, just honor them, own them, love them, cherish them, cherishing the sounds, cherishing the body, cherishing the breath that comes and goes. Thank you for this moment together. Thank you for all this effort together. Breathing in, opening your eyes, and I hope to see you all again soon.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Darcy.
Thank
Matt and
you.
Laura, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Don't
you.
forget, everyone, Awake Healer is where you can find them. You guys are beautiful. And Darcy, you are too, of course.
Oh, no, so are you.
So are you?
So are you.
We love you. Our new friends. Yay.
Yes.
Peace out.
Hey.
Please.
Bye.
We'll
Bye.
speak later. Bye-bye. Thank you.